Yeah, that was about a quick little opening. I tried to just get in there because, why not? I mean, when I think about international ice hockey, I think of Nintendo Ice Hockey, Phil. And you know what? At least in there, they would let the Russians play. Guys, it is great to be back and be back at full strength, all of us. I am the former sickie Mark Williams, your host for today, joined by the host of the Final Buzzer, who was able to do a show last week, Mr. John Folkowski.
I love that you're using sewer surfing from Turtles in Time as the music there and keeping like the whole video game going. I actually just finished Minish Cap last night, so fun game to play if anybody hasn't played it, Legend of Zelda. But yeah,
Minish Cap was a good one.
What's that?
Minish Cap was a good one.
It was. You know what? I hadn't played a lot of the Game Boy Advanced Legend of Zeldas, but that was a very good game.
Well, also the third member of the group, the man that did it all solo last Wednesday afternoon, Mr. Anthony LaRocco.
Yeah, that was fun. Always happy to talk hockey with everybody and all our wonderful viewers. But I'm excited for the Four Nations tournament to kick off today. And as always, I just want you guys to point out my banner here, who Mark's favorite player was. He doesn't make that known enough. That was his favorite player.
Andreas Dackel.
Oh, my God. Talk about a blast from the past on that one.
What's next? Magnus Arvidsson?
Yeah.
Although, Anthony, I do have to ask you, Sunday, you couldn't help but stare at that TV and just go, my Buffalo Bills would have put up a lot better of a fight than the Kansas City Chiefs did.
I did have that thought, but I loved every second of the Chiefs getting torn apart. And yeah, I was rooting for the Eagles. I know Giants fans, my friend Philip over here, plenty of Giants fans that can't bring themselves to root for the Eagles. I get it. But for me, it was an easy decision. I hate the Chiefs, but congratulations, Saquon, though. I like him. Never had anything against him. I'm glad he got a ring.
Well, I didn't want to see Taylor Swift get proposed to at the 50-yard line. And also, I just wanted to see John Mara get more pissed off every single minute with everything Saquon was running.
Before we get into hockey,
John Mara needs to go away. That is the problem with the Giants.
I gotta before we get started. I gotta X Phil because he's a Giants fan. I've heard a lot of people are very upset with Michael Strahan for flying the Eagles flag and saying "Fly Eagles fly." Do you care about that? Are you upset with them over that or no?
I don't like it. I mean,
okay.
I don't like it. But what am I going to do about a guy who's probably the number 2 Giant in team history? Like, yeah. if you talk about where players rank in the hierarchy of their organizations in terms of alumni, there's only one guy that ranks above Michael Strahan, and we all know who that is. And it's a 2-letter initial, or it's a 2-letter nickname. It's LT, and that's it. So,
and the greatest 56 ever.
Yeah, absolutely the greatest 56 ever in any sport. So yeah, that's not yeah.
All right, but with that said, let's get to the A block, as a lot of us have on our thing. Usually it's about Rangers Islanders. They're moved to the B block.
Pipe down over there, Tony. Pipe down. We'll have your Twitter privileges taken away.
Well, I mean, he's got to be getting back for practice soon enough. Big Lou very much wants to see Tony on the ice. And remember, everybody, the A block is brought to you by Seat Geek. Use the promo code BigAppleHockey for $20 off your first order. And we're hoping to have a collaboration, of course, with the Tony D'Angelo lookalike over there at Rangers Central and get the a state of the Rangers conversation. And also this week, we're planning on doing a state of the Islanders conversation. But it is time to talk about the Four Nations face-off, guys. Canada versus Sweden tonight. USA opens against Finland tomorrow night. Phil, let's start with you. Let's go with what you think the strength of Team USA is.
They got the best goaltending group in the tournament. Like, hands down, it's not even close. I mean, Canada, who a lot of people are always going to look at as the favorites, their goaltending is just horrendous. So the U.S. has the best goaltending group. They may be the most well-balanced team of any, but their goaltending sticks out to me. you have what's probably going to be a 3-time Vezina winner in Connor Hellebuck. And behind him, you have Jake Ottinger and Jeremy Swayman. And those two goalies could start on any other team in this tournament. Yeah, it's debatable with Finland and UC Saros. UC Saros is great, but you can argue Jake Ottinger's right there with him. I mean, Swayman before this year, you would argue that he was right there.
Yep.
So, I mean, Sweden, they don't have the goaltending that everyone else does. Ullmark, Vezina winner in 2023. We're starting to see that was more due to the team in front of him. No disrespect to him, but his numbers have not come anywhere close, just like Igor Shesterkin's since his Vezina winning year. And it's funny because they had similar numbers in their Vezina winning years back to back.
And Gustafson's the one that's starting for them.
Yeah, and Gustafson's very good. Don't get me wrong. But I would probably take Ottinger over him. Swayman's debatable. You can say that Gustafson has done more considering there's a lesser team in front of him. But I would say Ottinger could probably start on any other team in this tournament, especially Canada.
Yep.
So having Hellebuck and having that depth of goaltending, they were talking about it on, I believe it was TSN. Yes, TSN was talking about it. Oh, no. Sorry. It was the NHL Network. It was Jason Demers on the NHL Network that was talking about how if Hellebuck falters, do they go to Ottinger or Swayman quickly? Or do they stick it out with Hellebuck and give him time to get himself going? Because Demers brought up Hellebuck's playoff numbers. So when that happens and you have Jake Ottinger as your number 2 option, you're doing pretty good.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, both those goalies, if they can use this as a springboard to the playoffs, that's even more power to them. Anthony, let's go to the north and go to Team Canada. What is their strength?
Well, certainly not their goaltending. But I mean, isn't it obvious? I think their strength is their heaviness in terms of skilled players at the top of their lineup. And I mean, really through the bottom of their lineup, if you look at spots where guys like Brandon Hagel's playing in the lineup, but I mean, McDavid, Marner, McKinnon, Crosby, Reinhart, and they just have abundance of riches at the forward position. So they're a team that's going to be fast and they can score goals if you don't defend them well. Their defense is still really good too, and don't sleep on their defense. I mean, Cale Makar, Devon Taves, Josh Morrissey, they got a good group. Drew Doughty's filling in. He made the team. Happy for him because he's very excited about it. If not playing for a while due to injury, but they're a really good team. You can't count them out just because their goaltending is a little weaker. I think that forward group is enough to carry them through. Because really, realistically, all you really need is Aiden Hill or Skinner or whoever's going to play. If they can even just play at like a, maybe they're given like a 9-10 save percentage, that given their offense, that might be enough for them to get by. So we'll see. But I like the overall depth that team has.
And it's amazing, Anthony, when you think that they could actually, if they wanted to, go either McKinnon or McDavid when you have the choice of those two guys as the top center, and then have Sidney Crosby be a 3C. I mean, that's even more incredible. Just even thinking about that right now, I just wonder where to go with that. But Philk, let's go over to Team Sweden. You look at them. What's their strength?
Defense.
Yeah.
Definitely their defense. Multiple Norris trophies on that blue line. They arguably have the best blue line in the tournament.
Yeah.
With USA losing Quinn Hughes for the tournament, I would say that their defense is right on par with Sweden's now. USA had the edge for me before the Hughes injury. Now it's really close for me between Sweden and USA. So, yeah, I think that Sweden, if they're going to win this tournament, their defense and their team defense, and they've got good two-way players too. You got players like Joel Eriksson Ek, Mika Zibanejad, if he ever finds his way, like maybe this is the tournament where he finally, says, "Hey, this is the kick in the ass that I need to wake up." He can be a good two-way player for them. I mean, up and down their roster, they have guys that play very good, very, highly structured hockey. The other thing I want to say is that Team Sweden has players that can produce off the rush. William Nylander is one of the best players in the league off the rush. If you check his rush analytics, he's probably top 5 to 10 in just about every statistical category when it comes to generating chances off the rush. And he's the league leader in breakaways and breakaway goals this year. So that's a guy that if you can get him sprung loose, he could do a lot of damage against other teams.
Anthony, and the team that everyone's overlooking in this is Finland. You look at them, what's their strength?
Well, I mean, it's certainly not their defense. They're the most banged up in that area. There's so many injuries there that's really hurt their chances. But I do like that. Not that I like. I think one of Finland's strengths is, and it's always their strength in international play, is that they're real tough to play against. They play a real tough game. They're sound defensively. With Sasha Barkov as a forward leading the way there. They got all around complete players, and he's really kind of like the gold standard of that. And then you have, snipers like Patrick Laine, Mikko Rantanen, so Sebastian Aho. So they're talented. They got good players. They're more of like a lunch pail workmanship style team that just grinds it out and plays solid hockey in all areas of the ice. For me, it's just I think their defense is too banged up for them to compete in this tournament and win. I would be really surprised. But then again, with some of those talented forwards that I mentioned that they have, it is possible. But the last side to that is their goaltending. I mean, like Kevin Lankinen's probably going to get the first crack at it. I mean, that doesn't build much confidence for me. You have UC Saros on the bench. You would think
how is Lankinen getting first crack over Saros?
But I think they're leaning towards going to Lankinen first just because his numbers in the NHL he's played the best. So I don't know. I just overall though, with the injuries they have and goaltending, I put them as the 4th team in this tournament, but watch me be wrong, but that's just where I think they fall right now.
Yeah. Finland has that unique ability to be able to surprise a lot of people. And you look at sure. You might say, all right, well, their defense is down, but you look at their center depth when you go, wow, Alexander Barkov, Sebastian Aho, and then maybe Anton Lindell third. They can probably shut some people down, and that's
what I was going to say. That's probably their strength for me is two-way play because you're looking at Aho, Barkov, Haula, Hintz, Kakko, Lehkonen, Lundell, Luosterainen, and you could say Rantanen and Teravainen are decent defensive players as well. They have a glut of forwards that will play the type of game that's needed to win. So, yeah.
But now let's look at the weaknesses of every single club. And, Bill, I'll start you out with the hardest one for me to look at the weakness on. Team USA, what is their weakness?
Oh, looking at that roster, the one thing that I can say when I look at that roster is there is a little bit of a lack of size and jam there on defense. And I look at McAvoy is a stud. He's a two-way stud. Faber is a guy that's becoming somebody like McAvoy. I mean, for anyone that's a Minnesota fan here, I know Guntoon Granny's in the chat, but if that's the comparison that I'm seeing, and Faber is becoming very much like McAvoy. So that's a very good prospect for Wild fans. Sanderson is an incredible skater with length and size, but it's just there's not a lot of physical play outside of Slavin and McAvoy there. Hanifin can be when he needs to be. Okay. Fox We know he's not overly physical. Sanderson is not overly physical, but he's not a pushover either. But, I mean, this whole U.S. roster is kind of like that, even with the forwards. Like Boldy can be at times. Eichel here and there. Gensel's not overly physical, can be at times. Hughes is definitely not physical. Kreider has the size to be, but isn't. Larkin and the Kachucks and Trocheck are probably JT Miller as well, but a good half of that roster is just up front is just not physical, and you're going to have to play a heavy game at times, especially when you come up against a team like Finland that's going to make you play that type of game. That they're going to agitate their opponents. That's how they're going to win if Finland wins. They are going to get under their opponent's skin. And Canada, they have the guys that'll do it too. Sam Bennett, Anthony Cirelli, Brandon Hagel, Seth Jarvis, Travis Konechny, Brad Marchand, Braden Point, Sam Reinhart, Mark Stone. Those guys can all play physical hockey. And in Stone's case, any Dallas fans in here, yeah, he gets a little dirty at times, as we can see. But Drew Doughty, physical in the back end. Josh Morrissey can get physical in the back end. Kel McCarr has thrown around his weight. Parayko and Sanheim, very physical. So USA is going to have to play a more physical game, and everyone on that team, regardless of position or size, is going to have to buy in.
And I think that's where you hit the nail on the head. When the game, you have to grind it out against Team USA. Can they grind it out just as well as, say, Canada might be able to? Speaking about which, I know we're beating this drum, Anthony, and I know what you're going to say. Canada's biggest weakness is?
Yeah. I mean, this would be like Get the Hoop if this is Bar Talk.
I'll bring it up for you anyway.
It's goaltending. The trio that they have there, when you put them up against the goaltending of USA or even Sweden, I don't like their goaltending. I mean, granted, you have guys on there like Aiden Hill. He won a Stanley Cup. Jordan Binnington won a Stanley Cup, but they're not elite goaltenders. Granted, we talk about they're in the regular season in the NHL. You don't need an elite goaltender to win, and that's true. So maybe in a short tournament, that's even more true. But I just feel like playing against a squad like Team USA that could put up goals and is really talented. I think that goaltending, the crafts could show. So, but like I mentioned when we started, if one of those guys, I know Binnington's starting the first game, if he could play at a level where he's given the team like a 9-10 save percentage night in, night out, that might be good enough for them to win with how good Canada is offensively and they're strong defensively too. So maybe that's enough for them to get by. But yeah, it's certainly goaltending.
Yeah, and right now I think Canada's kind of grimacing a little bit when you think about Logan Thompson sitting at home with a 921 save percentage.
Yeah, so, I don't know about that one. I don't know. What, Sam Montembeault? That seems like a Canadian media pick right there.
Yeah. Well, at the time, it looked like Montembeault was playing well enough. Yeah. I'm trying not to laugh too hard at that comment because I don't want to
Binnington pulling what the KHL goaltender did the other day would be absolutely hilarious.
That would be priceless to see. And also priceless to see, Philk, what is Sweden's weakness?
Sweden's weakness, you could look at two different things on that roster if you ask me. And I could say, hey, this could probably hurt them. One is goaltending. I look at the goaltenders, and Philip Gustafsson, while he's good, and Linus Ullmark is good, are they good enough to win that tournament against some of the goaltenders they're going to be up against? I'm not entirely sold on them, but I don't think that they're going to hurt you, but I do have my concerns on them having the ability to be the guys. And then up front, it's probably a lack of true top-end scorers for me. Like, they have very good players. Like, Philip Forsberg is there. Jesper Bratt, I like him as a depth player, but I don't see him being as a big time scorer in this type of tournament. Adrian Kempe, underrated player. I think he's going to have a real good tournament. But aside from like William Nylander, Elias Pettersson, and Philip Forsberg, who are the linchpins otherwise?
This guy's just chirping us the whole time and saying,
all right, so we'll be more entertaining on it.
I know.
I don't know who this guy is, but whatever.
That's all right. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. But Anthony, I'll give you the last easy one, which is Finland's weakness.
I mean, it's their defense. I mean, they're going to really miss Miro Heiskanen. He's a horse back there for them. And without him, I mean, you're looking at their defense. Esa Lindell, he's going to have to play serious minutes. They're just very inexperienced on the back end, and I mean that this is a perfect example of why the NHL didn't want to include a team like Czechia in the event, because they want to have every player playing in the tournament being an NHL player. And you know, with the Czechs, they only have like 5 guys who played defense in the NHL this year. So
and Finland only has 11.
Yeah, similar to Finland. Now that they have so many injuries, that they're getting real thin on defense to the point where, you know, if they suffered another injury, you probably have to go outside the NHL. So, you know, I just think that their defense is going to be a huge issue for them. And I think over time they're going to get worn down. And I think the inexperience on the back end is going to show. You know, when you're going to have Valimaki as being one of the more important pieces of their defense, that just shows the depth. So, but again, they do play a hard enough game where maybe they can overcome it, tight checking from their forwards chipping in. But I just think ultimately their defense is going to get them.
And at that, they're going to be playing Urho Vakanainen a lot, and he's barely the 6th defenseman on the Rangers as it is. So, guys, let's make our predictions now. Who you got winning this thing? I'm going to start with you, Mr. LaRocco, and go right back down to the bottom square.
I mean, maybe call it a homer pick. We're Americans, but I'm going to say USA. I just think from top to bottom, they're the most complete roster, from their forward to their defense to their goaltending. So unless something, you know, goes wrong and, you know, all of their goalies just, you know, turn in subpar performances, I don't see how they're going to lose, to be honest with you. I mean, they got enough goal scoring, you know, Matthews, Hughes, the Kachucks, you know, they got guys that can put the puck in the net just as well as Canada. And the kicker is their goaltending is just so much better. So I got USA.
Phil, oh, by the way, who do you got USA beating?
I mean, get easy way out, but Canada. I think they'll beat Canada.
Yeah. Phil?
I mean, Anthony literally took everything I wanted to say. There's not a whole lot I can add to that. He's right. They're, to me, on paper, they are the most complete team, top to bottom, even without Quinn Hughes. So I think the U.S. probably beats Canada in the final. Canada's power play is definitely a monster, as Kevin's pointing out here, but I just don't think that they have the defense that the U.S. does. When you brought in Sanheim and Parayko in a tournament where speed is emphasized and they don't have the puck movers on the back end, for me, Cale Makar can play 25 minutes a game. Mm-hmm. But what happens for the other 35 minutes of that game when he's not on the ice? And to me, I just think it's U.S. top to bottom. I honestly would not be stunned completely if Sweden ends up making the finals over Canada, like it's the U.S. and Sweden in the championship, because Sweden is a team I think that some are going to sleep on.
It's hard to go against John Cooper, who might be the best coach in this tournament. But you gotta like US's roster construction. I think a little bit better than I like Canada's. We're gonna talk about the power plays in a little bit because every team's gonna have a stellar power play unit to go with, and I do have USA winning it. I'm having trouble trying to figure out the team that's going to finish second. And what is the major upset? If it's Finland versus USA, rematch of the final game in the 1980 Olympics, or if maybe it's Finland or it's Sweden, Sweden upsetting Canada. I'm tending to lean on the smaller ice surface favors the North American teams just by default. And the last time they had a tournament like this here, it was still United States versus Canada in the 2010 Olympics. So we'll see about that. Let's take a quick message from DraftKings, everybody, and then we're going to go over the New York hockey teams and their pursuit of the playoffs. Hockey fans light the lamp this winter with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. New customers can bet just $5 pregame money line on any NHL team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. If that wasn't enough excitement, you can turn small bets into bigger payouts with same-game parlays. Combine multiple bets like which team will win, how many goals will be scored, and more for your shot at an even bigger payout. Download the DraftKings Sports app now. Use promo code THPN. Bet $5 on any NHL team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. Only at the DraftKings Sportsbook with code THPN. Well, let's kick up the entertainment a little bit more, guys, because let's get back to the New York playoff chase and the state of both teams that are in there. Right now, the New York Rangers with a gift Saturday night. We'll get into that in a moment. They trail the Ottawa Senators, who are in wild card 1 by 4 points, Detroit by 3. The Islanders, 1 point, add 1 point to both of them, 5 points behind Ottawa, 4 points behind Detroit. So, Phil, I'll start with you, and we can talk about that gift that the Rangers closed in on Columbus because of that bad turnover, then Will Cooley capitalized on.
Yeah, Will Cooley had himself a hell of a game the other night. They were very sloppy at times, and they found a way to win that game. You got to give them credit. That was one of the more gutsy wins that they've had all season. Will Cooley jumping on a gift at the right time. He had a great game, 2 goals. Best player on the ice, in my opinion, for either team. But, yeah, that was a frustrating game to watch as a Ranger fan, but the outcome was great. It was good to end on a high note after the disappointment that occurred on Friday night. One of the most pathetic showings that I have ever seen from a Ranger team going back to, I would say, the Dark Ages. And that was back when they would go into Atlanta when they were in the playoff chase in like 2001, 2002, and Kovalchuk and Heatley decided to rip them a new asshole, and they just didn't show up. Like,
yeah, but Phil, at least that's Kovalchuk and Heatley.
Yeah, there was no Kovalchuk or Heatley in Pittsburgh. No rookie Kovalchuk and Heatley. Yeah, the Rangers do have dark ages, Joey. It's called 98 through 2004.
The Rangers have a lot of them, yeah.
Yeah, the Rangers have had a lot of dark ages. But that was one of the darkest times you will ever go through as a sports fan. That sucked. So, but yeah, it's good to see them rebound after that pathetic effort, the night before. But now you have Buffalo. You have those same depleted Pittsburgh Penguins. Maybe they'll have Crosby back for that game, depending on what happens in this tournament if he doesn't get re-injured or aggravates whatever he was dealing with. On the 23rd, so it's back-to-back days of teams that they should beat, and then you have that big Islander game on the 25th.
Mm-hmm.
The first Ranger Islander game in quite some time.
They got 2 in a week.
2 in a week after not having months. So that'll be a big test for them coming off those 2 games to see if they can get up for that game, because this Ranger team has had a habit in years past of not getting up for those games against the Islanders. The Islanders treat those like their Stanley Cup, and the Rangers end up getting waxed because they don't show up to play. So they'll have them twice in 1 week, and they'll have Toronto and Washington as well. So this stretch coming up is a big, big stretch for the Rangers.
Yeah, but back in those days, that's when the Islanders were just not as good, and they were able to get up for those games, Phil. Anthony, you got the Islanders. They were one of the hottest teams in the league, and then they lose to Winnipeg and then Minnesota. They're going to come out of the break. Dallas, Rangers, Boston, and then they get Nashville. Can't guarantee any wins, but then the Rangers and then Winnipeg again before they go out west. So how are the Islanders looking?
They're in the same boat as everybody else. That's how they're looking.
There you go. Yeah.
No, they unfortunately had to play two really good teams away and back to back, and Minnesota and Winnipeg, and they lost both of them. Obviously, Winnipeg's one of the best teams in the league. No shame in that. They were up 3-2 in that game. They just let it get away. And then the game the next night in Minnesota, that one hurt. I mean, that one they were up 3-1. And they kind of just, fell apart. And I think Wass said that they were a fatigued team, and they just kind of got deflated by a couple of quick goals, and they couldn't recover. But I think when you consider where they were a couple of weeks ago, 4 points out of a playoff spot at the Four Nations break, I think as an Islander fan, you got to take that. And they have been playing good hockey. So, out of the break, the game against Dallas is obviously very important, and the game against the Rangers, that's going to be huge. They trail the Rangers by 1 point. They're both chasing two teams, so every point is crucial. With how compact it is, you can go from being 3 points out to 7 points out if one night on the scoreboard doesn't go your way. So every game is really, really big at this point, and especially with the trade deadline. Only a week or week and a half from once play resumes, 2 weeks. These are going to be games where teams really decide whether or not they should kind of be buyers, a hybrid of selling and buying. A lot of teams are still kind of on that line where it can go either way. How these next couple of games go out of the break is going to determine that, I think.
Yeah, and you still gotta like the way that they were playing before they went into the break. They were very feisty in both games, including the game against Winnipeg, even though Winnipeg ended up winning the game. And they looked good. So I gotta ask you guys, who do you think is gonna be the two wildcard teams? I know we got a long way to go, guys. I'm just asking for a guess. We're not playing the tape back on this.
I mean, I think Tampa Bay won their last two games before the break. And I think that was huge. I think that was huge for them because, anything could still happen. But now, I think they have a little bit more of a comfortable handle on that third spot in the Atlantic. Still not out of the woods. I mean, you still have Detroit and Ottawa. Ottawa's 4 points behind Tampa Bay. Detroit's 5. So, if let's just say, assuming Tampa Bay gets that 3 spot, you're talking the Senators, the Red Wings, Blue Jackets, Bruins, Rangers, and Islanders. And I mean, if you want, you can either consider Montreal, Pittsburgh, Philly, but they're probably going to be out of it. But so you're talking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams for 2 spots. It's really going to be close. Yeah, honestly, my guess is that Tampa Bay gets the 3rd spot in the Atlantic, and I hate to say it, I think Ottawa and Boston take the spots and our teams miss. I mean, that's just my gut right now. But things change so much. I could feel differently in a week. And I think part of the reason why I'm not picking the Rangers and the Islanders because they've been so up and down. Where it looks like they absolutely suck, they're out of it. Then they looks like they're back, and then it's like win one, lose one, win one, lose one. So up and down. For me, a team like Boston has been fairly steady of just kind of average the whole year. That I think maybe that ultimately puts them in. Columbus, I think Marchenko and Monahan, their injuries are really going to hurt them, and it's already starting to show. I think they lost their last couple before the break. So, yeah, right now my guess is Tampa Bay for third in the Atlantic and Ottawa and Boston for the wild card spots. But we'll have to see how it plays out.
Yeah, JE brings up a good point with Boston because they played more games than anybody. But,
Yeah,
they got Pasta back, and if their schedule lightens up, and we're going to see about that soon enough, and that it looks like Boston's back to at least being what they were. Bill, who do you think is going to take those two wild cards? Or is it going to be one of those two teams that are still in there, or both, as Ranger Central said, or do you think it's going to be possibly the Rangers or Islanders are both getting in?
I don't trust Columbus right now. I really don't. Boston, the other thing aside from the games in hand that sticks out to me is I mean, I look at their schedule and they've got Anaheim to come back with, but then they've got Toronto and the Islanders. So those are going to be two big games for them in division game, and then a team that's chasing them. Pittsburgh is that should be a team that you should beat if you show up. Minnesota, that's going to be a tough team. Then you've got Nashville. You never know what you're going to get with this team with Nashville. Sometimes they look like the team they could be on paper. Sometimes they look like a complete mess. And you got Carolina, you got Tampa Bay, you got Florida, you got Ottawa, you got Tampa Bay. So up until and then they got Buffalo after that, but then you rebound with Vegas, San Jose, and LA pretty much to end out like the next month and change of games. So they've got a tough stretch of games coming up. The end of their season is a little easier, but is David Pastrnak going to continue to play at the pace that he's playing at right now? And really, like, who on that team is going to produce once he goes cold? Like, I'm not saying he's going to go ice cold, but he's going to cool down. He's eventually going to cool down from what he's doing. And I don't see where the offense is coming from. It's not coming from Elias Lindholm. He's that contract looks like a complete albatross. Where is the offense coming from otherwise? There's no Jake DeBrusk there anymore. Brad Marchand looks like a shell of himself. I'm sorry, he just does not look good. And they just don't have the guys otherwise. They don't. So I don't trust Boston. Ottawa, to me, is too inexperienced. I think that they're close. They're getting closer to where they need to be, but this is not their time just yet. I don't trust Ottawa. I think they're going to fall off a little bit. Same with Detroit. They had two different 7-game winning streaks since Todd McLellan took over.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Two. That's not sustainable. That's not going to continue to happen. The coach boost has happened already. I think they're going to fall off. I don't trust their goaltending. I don't trust their defense. Columbus, you talked about Marchenko and Monahan. Those are two massive injuries that are really going to hurt them. For me, this is where the Rangers and the Islanders step in. And I think that these two teams finally get it together. They've got advantages in goaltending that no other team has. Igor Shesterkin has not been great this year. He's not. And there's no way to defend him. But this seems like the time of year where Shesterkin gets his shit together and starts playing better. It just seems like every time in the second half of the year, he plays better. So this is what the Rangers have to hope for. They're starting to play a little better defensively. The analytics since January tell you that they're playing better defensively too. They're giving up less rush chances. They're giving up less chances overall, less shots on net. So, yeah, the Rangers' power play has improved a little bit with JT Miller. They're looking better lately. I think they're going to make a big push. I also think that they're going to make more moves. That's another thing. The Islanders, for me, they seem to just find a way to play better when they deal with injuries. When Barzal was hurt, 2 years ago?
Yeah.
They found a way to get points and get into the playoffs. Yeah, they got smacked around by Carolina, but it's not the point here. The point is that they find a way to get in. And right now, if there's any other goalie out of all these teams that I'm going to trust outside of Igor Shesterkin to get it done in clutch time, it's Ilya Sorokin. I'm not going to trust Linus Ullmark the same way. I'm not going to trust Elvis Merzlikins. Get out of here. Go away. Not even an argument here. But it's Sorokin. Sorokin's the other guy. And if he gets back to playing the way that he was before, and Anthony, you mentioned this, he was run down earlier on in the year from overusage, considering the injuries to Varlamov and everything. This break could be much needed for these two Russian goaltenders in New York. Mm-hmm. So if that's the case, and that ends up working out, those are the two goaltenders I wouldn't want to face down the stretch.
Yeah, and I think that's the reason why I'm looking at the two of them and thinking that the best hockey that they got is coming. I don't like the Islanders' schedule coming out of the break, but they can very easily go, let's say, just barely over 500, maybe even go to overtime, take a couple more games, get some more points, accumulate them, and go on another run. They could do that because Ilya Sorokin right now, I take him over Igor Shesterkin right now because he's played the better of the two of them. And it's not even close. And looking at Shesterkin's statistical pattern, this is the time of year where he just says, I'm going to be one of the best goalies in the NHL, if not the best one. And he comes alive. Let's see if he does that again. Because if he doesn't do that, can the Rangers make the playoffs with pedestrian Shesterkin? I don't know if that's the case. Certainly not with these numbers that he's putting up right now. 908 save percentage ain't going to get it done, buddy. That's got to be up in the 920s where you usually do it from the All-Star break on. And as Jay is asking, Anthony, how many back-to-backs do the Islanders have? Because that may hurt them with Sorokin not being able to play.
I'm not sure, but that's exact. So when they played what was it, when they last week or the week before when they had that back-to-back against the Panthers and the Lightning, they beat Tampa, and then they gave Jakub Skarek his first start against Florida. They actually almost won, but he had to start. And then this most recent, the Jets and the Wild back-to-back, Sorokin started. He started both. But the thing is, Lou Lamoriello said that Hogberg would be back right around the time the Four Nations tournament ends. And if you look at his statistics and how he was playing when he did get a few starts for the Islanders, he actually played really well. So having him back would be huge because he's proved to be serviceable. Whereas Skarek right now isn't an NHL caliber goaltender. So as long as Hogberg is back, I don't think it'll be much of an issue. And as far as Varlamov goes, honestly, I won't be surprised if you never see him again. This guy was day-to-day in November. And there's still no sign of him. There's no sign of him, and the last update was Lou gave that he's out indefinitely. So I don't know what his deal is. Some people have speculated that this could be the end of the road for him. So I don't know.
To answer Jay's question, the Islanders have 3 back-to-backs the rest of the season. March 3rd with the Rangers and March 4th with Winnipeg. So you got the Rangers and you got the Winnipeg the next night. I don't know. Maybe they were better off playing Winnipeg the first night and then dealing with the Rangers the second night, knowing how they get up for those games. Then they've got, at the end of that week, funny enough, or going into the following week, March 8th and 9th, they have San Jose and Anaheim in California. So they're on a 3-game West Coast trip from March 8th through March 11th with San Jose, Anaheim, and LA. But they have San Jose and Anaheim on back-to-back nights. And then the last back-to-back is the 29th and the 30th. They're at Tampa on the 29th, and the 30th, they're at Carolina. So that's a really tough back-to-back right there.
And just to throw one more name out there, guys, what about, and I hope I get his name right, Levi Merilainen in Ottawa, who has an 8-3-1 record and 925 save percentage. And I believe his goals against is under a 2. Yes, it's a 199. Could that be a guy that's actually lightning in the bottle that can get Ottawa into the playoffs? Sort of, I don't want to say he's in Andrew Hammond territory, but anybody have any thoughts on him?
It's an interesting comparison that you bring up Andrew Hammond. He was Marylinen's a third-round pick in 2020. I can't say that he was like a top prospect. Hammond came out of nowhere too. Like, these were both guys that were not considered like blue chip prospects by any means. But Maryline, you gotta wonder if when more tape becomes available on him, what happens with him. I mean, he played in 2023, played 2 games, and he had a 423 goals against and an 878 save percentage and went 0-1-1. So you gotta, I mean, I don't know. He was good. He's been good, but I do wonder what happens when more tape is available with him. It's kind of like baseball. Like, when the tape becomes available, the pitchers make adjustments to the batters. And then it's on the batters to make the adjustments. In hockey, it's the same thing with the goaltenders. Like Igor Shesterkin, he came up and nobody could solve him in 2019, 2020 at the end of that year.
Until Pavel Buchnevich wrecked his car with a minute.
You had to bring that up, didn't you? You just had to. Just had to.
Well,
yeah, it's just you. I want to see what happens with the adjustments. I don't know if that's going to be something that'll be able to be made mid-season right now. But Marylinen's on a good run. He's been very good for them, and we'll see what happens. But I understand the comparison to Hammond. I really do. I get David's point here. When Hammond was a vet, when he had his run. But yeah, I mean, Hammond was definitely a little older. Mm-hmm. He wasn't an established guy by any means, but yeah, this is another one where it's, out of nowhere.
All right, so Anthony's got both the New York teams missing. Something tells me there's more pressure on one of the GMs that are in there in New York, and I think Lou, I think, has got more chips to kind of go with, but I think Chris Drury has to get in the playoffs or it might be his job. So I think he's going to try to find a way in there. It's funny because we're going to be talking about GMs under pressure in our bar talk very shortly, guys. So if Maryline can keep this up, Ottawa gets in. And then I would say Ottawa and the Rangers at the 8th spot. But we'll see about that. We're going to reassess it in 2 weeks. As Anthony said it best, the wins of this NHL season, the win could change, and suddenly the next thing you know,
just like the comment,
other teams in there.
Rumor looking that St. Louis is looking to sell. I don't know where Jay heard that, but
I've heard some whispers about St. Louis selling, but we're going to see if that's going to be the case.
I don't know if it stems from it, but Jeremy Rutherford from the Athletics said a week ago that he actually said that he thinks that there's a 50 to 60% chance that the Blues move Jordan Kyrou before his no movement clause kicks in. So maybe
Chris Drury, get him so we could stop killing the Rangers.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe it's kind of based off that. If they're considering moving him, then why not do a rebuild? I don't know.
Well, who knows? There's another team that might try to go get a top 6 forward. We're going to talk about them.
Friedman is talking about it, but yeah, I wonder if Friedman is piggybacking off of what Rutherford said, because Rutherford is very connected. Him and Strickland are very connected to the St. Louis Blues.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to talk about more of those trade rumors in a minute in our NHL Bar Talk.
Shot. This is the easiest I've ever had to answer.
I say beer. I can't even begin to describe.
I'm actually going to go crazy. I'm going to buy everybody around on this one. And it's time for Big Apple Hockey's NHL Bar Talk, where we gauge our confidence on NHL topics based on our choice of drink. So confident that you're buying around for everybody. So I'll have a beer. Oh, dear God, I need a shot. And last night or / yesterday afternoon with Super Bowl payouts at the bar. Oh, my God, there were a lot of rounds that were bought. We were in an Irish circle, something fierce. So anyway, play along down in the comments below, everybody. And let's start with this one, that the Seattle Kraken are 11 points out in West Wildcard 2 Right now it's being occupied by Vancouver. But you can't help but look over at Jamie Oleksiak with 1 year remaining on his current deal, $4.5 million contract right now. Philk, that is who the New York Rangers should be targeting.
Round. Big, physical, can skate, decent defensively. Everything they need. Everything they need. They do need a puck mover as well. You would like to see them bring in a puck mover, but this is a much better fit for Adam Fox than Ryan Lindgren. Ryan Lindgren, he needs to find his way out. Yeah. Get the hoop. I'm with J.E. on this. This is a round for me. I guess Evan is not as convinced. Beer. I think Oleksiak would be a very, very nice addition. I would probably try to see if I could get Yanni Gourde or Brandon Tanev in that deal as well, preferably Gourde, even with the injuries. I know I've been on the Gourde wagon for since probably the earlier part of last year, but I do think that Gourde's going to be back by the trade deadline, and I do think that he would be a player that a lot of teams would covet and would help the Rangers out a lot at third line center. So there's also some trade history, obviously, between these two teams, between Wenberg and Kakko deals. So,
well, there you go. But Anthony, is that the player the Rangers should be targeting?
He's big. He can move for a guy his size. He can be physical. I certainly think he's a sound defenseman. And I don't know. I mean, the teams that are selling, I don't know what other teams are going to offer up defensemen that are more solid. So, I mean, I want to say round. I mean, I do wonder if Mario Ferraro is available in the Sharks. Mm-hmm. He's a good mobile D, blocks a lot of shots. So he could be another option. Seth Jones is out there, but I don't see that as a fit for the Rangers. I mean, you hear Bowen Byram's name in Buffalo, but I think that's more of a hockey deal they'd be looking for. So I don't know if that would fit right now for the Rangers. So there's certainly other guys, but I mean, it's possible Oleksiak fits best. So I'll go round two, but I do like Jay's saying, I do like Mario Ferraro for the Rangers too. I just wonder what his price tag would be from San Jose with that X for.
That extra year, $4.5 million, might drive up the price a little bit too much for the Rangers. I don't know whether or not Drury, he certainly can't deal a first or second round pick for him. And I don't know if he's got the assets to be able to make the deal. Maybe if you give, I don't even know what Brendan Othman's value is at the moment, or even some of the higher echelon prospects. But I'm going to go Beer only because I think you should be looking for centers. They need to get a third line center. Maybe Dickinson from the Chicago Blackhawks would fit that mold a little bit better. And maybe you can get Connor Murphy instead, as like that second piece. We'll see about that. And it might be tough to get both, say, Yanni Gourde and or Jamie Oleksiak, both of them coming over here.
The Rangers have the space to do that.
They do have the space.
They'll have the deadline space to do it.
Right. But then you have to worry about next year and the cap that's going up. But hey, the cap went up, Phil. So the one thing you should do is pay everyone and wait till the credit card bill comes.
Yeah, Oleksiak at 4.6. Yeah, but you're probably getting rid of Ryan Lindgren at that point. Because
I think Ryan Lindgren's going to go regardless if the Rangers sell or buy. I think he's going to be traded. I just have that feeling.
I just don't know if he's traded at the deadline. They might be better off suited to have him at least be a seventh defenseman, but we're going to see about that.
Then you lose him. Then you lose him for nothing.
Pretty much the same price.
But then you lose him for nothing. If you don't move him at the deadline, then he's a free agent. Then I bring him back. So why wouldn't
right? But let me just also throw this one out there because you couldn't help but notice a difference in that team in 2011 when Ryan Lindgren was out and then he came back in and they even benched Patrick Nemeth an entire game so they could play Ryan Lindgren just in case if he wasn't going to be able to play. And the difference was night and day. Is he a shade of what he used to be 2 years ago? Or even geez, 4 years ago.
Uh,
Yeah, absolutely. But it's one of those things of
No, he's real bad. You have to move him right now. He's a liability out there.
yeah.
I don't see how he's been terrible. If you can get Oleksiak and move Lindgren, I would personally do it. Lindgren's just one of the guys that the eye test and the analytics tell you that he's just not good. Like it's gotten to a point where it's dragging Adam Fox down.
Yeah.
The friendship's got to be broken up. I'm sorry.
Anthony, I can see in the future Phil tweeting out after the next Ranger game, and Lindgren's on the ice for another goal against. All right.
Nightly
Let's
occurrence.
get back to the New York Islanders, guys. They are 4 points back of wildcard 2 for the Detroit Red Wings. And one of the players that's being mentioned in trade rumors is the young defenseman Noah Dobson, coming off a great season last year. Anthony, Noah Dobson will be moved for a top 6 forward.
You know, at the beginning of the year, I would have said that there's no shot that moved Dobson, but there's been so much smoke about him the last week or so. Starting to feel that when there's smoke, there's fire. And, you know, Elliot Friedman said today that he had heard that the Islanders have offered Dobson in a specific deal for a player. He said they're not shopping him, like they're not calling a bunch of teams and shopping him, but they have a specific player or two that they have interest in where they're offering up Noah Dobson. And then today he switched agents, which is a little peculiar. And one interesting thing that Friedman said on that is he said typically you see players change representation when they're about to start a contract negotiation. And when you look at it, Lou Lamoriello does all his business with re-signing RFA specifically in the summertime. That's when he's announced his deals for Sorokin, Romanov, Holmstrom, all these RFAs in the past. He has never re-signed an RFA mid-season. So the feeling I get is that they have interest in moving the player, and that I think at this point Dobson is maybe getting new representation because he's allowed to talk to whatever team is interested in acquiring him and with an extension ahead of time. So I'm going to say Beer just because I think that if it's not now, I think they might look at moving him in the offseason. So I'll stick with Beer. But the last thing I'll say is that the other reason, too, why they can move him is Noah Dobson, as good as he is offensively, he hasn't progressed his game defensively. So another reason why they might look at trading him is he's like Phil Kit said, he's going to ask for $8.5 million. So does Lou Lamoriello, maybe his thinking is, do I want to commit $8 million to a defenseman who he may score me 60, 70 points, but he's not at the level where he should be defensively. So they might not want to pay him that much for a guy who maybe they envision is not going to fix his defensive game. So I certainly think it's going to be a real possibility they move him. Whether it's now or the deadline, I think he might be gone.
Wow. Phil, what do you think? Noah Dobson, former Islander in the future?
I still don't see it. I get the concern about, or the point rather that Anthony's making about the concern of giving an $8 million contract to a guy who's not great defensively. But at least unlike Keandre Miller in New York, Noah Dobson is a great offensive defenseman. Like that's 60 to 70 points a year that you're going to get from that guy. I don't think that 70-point season's a fluke. I don't. Maybe
I don't either.
Maybe he doesn't reach 70 again. 60 to 65 a year, I could see that easy money. You're going to pay money for that type of production from that blue line. They don't have anyone else who can move the puck at a level even close to what he does. I'm sorry, they just don't. And what prospect do they have in their system right now that says that even has like 50-point potential as a defenseman? I don't see it. So unless they're going to make a trade for another type of defenseman, another youngish offensive defenseman that can produce but is probably a little better of a two-way guy, then I don't see how they do it. I just don't. I'm going to say shot, and if I end up being wrong, okay. But I have a lot of trouble seeing that when he's the only guy in your organization that fits the need of a puck mover from the back end. A true puck mover, I should say.
Yeah, and I think there's definitely something to it that his defense really needs some work. Last year, he was one of the Islanders' only plus defensemen when they were really struggling, and he finished with a plus 12 last year. I know everybody's got to tell me that a plus minus is overrated, but a -8 this year, that's where it's really showing through. There's some times where he's just looked completely lost defensively, and if that means like the Islanders can get a solid top 6 forward. I think one of the names, Anthony, that's been bantered about with the Islanders, don't know if Dobson is one of the guys that's mentioned, but Elias Pettersson was a guy that was mentioned to go there.
Well, that's what Friedman said. He's like, there's a lot of talk about Vancouver being that team. He's like, this was in the 32 Thoughts written part, not what he said today in video. But yeah. He said he doesn't know for sure, but he said, yeah, it's reasonable to assume that Vancouver could have been that target, and obviously connect the dots. Pettersson's the guy the Islanders want. Bo Horvat, former teammate of his, likely lobbying for him to be reunited, but Vancouver may not want to move him now. So I don't know. I'm not really sure what's going to happen there. But the thing is, if they move Dobson, they're not going to move him for like a 27-year-old Brock Besser. They're only going to move him if they get a player of similar age that they feel will be a long-term fixture in their forward group. If they get that player, they're going to move him. That's just my gut. Whether or not they can find that player, I don't know. But the fact that Friedman said that the Islanders already offered him up in a deal tells me that Lou has identified a player that they want. So we'll see what happens.
Anthony, and that's the reason why I'm going to go beer, because the other side of that coin, you got to give me the player that Lou's going to look at and go, bring him in. He'll be a core piece for us. I don't know if that's Dylan Cousins. Would that match the pattern?
I wouldn't move. It's got to be someone better. I mean, Dylan Cousins, like a couple of years ago, he had that 60-point year. He looked like he was going to be a good player, but you can't trade Noah Dobson for a guy right now where there's a risk that he might just top out at a 50-point player. If they're moving Dobson, it's got to be for a guy like Elias Pettersson, because like Phil alluded to, he thinks it wasn't a fluke that he's got 70 points. 70-point defensemen don't grow on trees, especially a young one. So if they're moving him, it's got to be for a player that's going to move the needle. Dylan Cousins for the Islanders won't move the needle. Elias Pettersson playing next to Bo Horvat and whoever you want to put there on the other wing, I mean, that potentially moves the needle.
Phil, it looks like you have one last word to throw in on that.
I've said this before. I don't know how he puts up those points in Vancouver. He is not taking Quinn Hughes off that first power play unit. We all know that. So
I agree with you 100% on that one.
I don't understand where the fit is there. I don't. If they are talking Pettersson, the other thing I would say about Pettersson, red flag about his play falling off of an absolute cliff after signing his extension last year. Said that. And not only that, but you have Vancouver, from what has been said by Freeman and others, is that they want to take time to look at Pettersson. So I think if a Pettersson deal happens, it happens in the offseason for Vancouver. I don't think this is something that you're going to see. I think this happens sometime between the end of the season and July 1st. So I unless his play falls drastically off a cliff by the deadline, and they're like, well, you know what? Big red flag. We don't want this guy anymore. I don't see it.
The other thing I heard someone say was the Canucks could be interested in Dobson as a security net for 2 years from now if Quinn Hughes decides he's going to eventually go to New Jersey and join his brothers.
That's exactly what I was thinking when you were mentioning Dobson, but I think that's an expensive security blanket.
Yeah, it's never a bad thing to get a puck-moving defenseman, and while that could be the case, the only thing I would say is that That really depends on whether they move Pettersson. If they move Pettersson, then I think you can kiss Quinn Hughes goodbye. Then maybe at that point, I guess that would be the case. But I don't know. I just feel like you're hedging a lot here.
Well, we talked about him in the last block, and the Detroit Red Wings are currently in wild card 2. They're 3 points ahead of the New York Rangers, 4 points ahead of the New York Islanders, only, I believe, 1 point ahead of the Columbus Blue Jackets right now. But out of all the GMs that are under the most pressure, Detroit Steve Yzerman is under the most pressure of any GM in the league right now. Phil?
Shot. It's Chris Drury.
Yeah, I was gonna.
Chris Drury. You can't have a President's Trophy winning team and get to the Eastern Conference Finals, get to Game 6, and now all of a sudden you have all this mess that happened between the offseason with Trouba, the in-season stuff with Trouba and Kreider, and all the stuff that went on with them quitting on the team. And now Chris Drury has to make the playoffs. I know that people in the chat are saying, I don't think Chris Drury's on a hot seat. Chris Drury, if the Rangers miss the playoffs, you could see Chris Drury gone. Like, this is one of the biggest shots I think I've ever had to take on this in this segment. Yeah, Evan saying shot.
Yeah,
playoffs.
wow.
Yeah. I don't see the pressure on Yzerman. I think that franchise loves him. I don't think they would ever fire him. I think if it came down to them wanting to move on from him, I think it would be one of those mutual agreed type things where they come out and they say it's a mutual thing. But I think Yzerman will get a tremendously long leash. One, thanks to his reputation as a player and a captain and a community presence there for 20 years, 22 years, whatever. And then, for his work in Tampa, basically building up that cup winner. So I think he's going to have a very long leash. And I think if anyone looked at this roster and expected this team to be a playoff team, I think they were probably fooling themselves. So maybe that's Detroit's management. But yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm with Evan on this. I think even Don Sweeney would have more pressure than Steve Yzerman. I really do think that. I mean, they were a playoff team, and now they may be on the cusp of missing the playoffs, firing Jim Montgomery, 2 years after they fired, or 3 years after they fired Bruce Cassidy, 2 years or whatever, and then he goes on to win a Stanley Cup in Vegas. I mean, Sweeney's got to be looking like a real. I don't even want to say the word right now, but it's not a good look for him right now.
Anthony, I know you said shot, so I'll put it up right there. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I get where the question comes from because the Red Wings have been rebuilding forever, and you hear about the Yzer plan, and they missed the playoffs in heartbreaking fashion last year by 1 point. So I get it. You want them to take the next step, but anytime you have a team in the Rangers who won a President's Trophy last year, and now they're like a bubble team. I mean, no, I think a lot of pressure on Chris Drury to make the playoffs. If they miss the playoffs, he's going to have a lot of questions to answer because let's face it, at the beginning of the year, forget it, even if they miss, even right now, at the beginning of the year, if I told you guys at the Four Nations break, the Rangers would be out of the playoffs, you guys would be looking at me and be like, thinking I'm crazy. So the fact that they're even in this position where they could miss the playoffs is not good for Chris Drury's job security. And if he misses, I think he's done. So Drury's certainly a good option there, as you alluded to. Sweeney, he fired Jim Montgomery and replaced the coach, and Montgomery has done a good job in St. Louis to boot, so that could come back to bite him. But I think for sure it's Drury right now. I would be my pick.
I think it's almost a toss-up between Drury and you said Don Sweeney. He's a good one to mention. Then you got Yzerman, who he has yet to make the playoffs with the Yzer plan. And of course, when you're hyped that much and you haven't pulled through yet, people are going to start looking at you, even when you're the guy that they desperately want him to succeed. This has happened in a lot of different places. You know, I think Tom Fitzgerald's going to have a little bit of pressure too. He's another guy I'll throw out there. And I don't think that there's really pressure going to other GMs. Maybe you could say, I'm going to say Jim Rutherford.
Fitzgerald. How?
The Devils have been looking a little bit like pretenders, and they got a high ceiling right now. That's as of late.
The team that didn't make the playoffs last year, and now they're in a playoff position. I gotta really disagree with that one.
You could disagree with it. I'm that's a little bit of a hot take. I'm just throwing a different GM out there because you got Simone Nemec, who's kind of sounding like he might want his way out of there. Can he put together a team that's going to be a winner? I mean, they're 5-5 in the last 10. If they're first round and out to Carolina, do you consider the season a success? Or you just look over and go, oh, they got beat by another team, a good team. We're going to see about that one. I just think when it comes to Yzerman, there's only so many times you could pass the blame off elsewhere. He hasn't had that same magic touch that he had in Tampa so far. So, by the way, that was a beer. Let's go to a rumored trade going on right now. The Dallas Stars are rumored to have interest in Chicago defenseman Seth Jones. Anthony, a Seth Jones trade makes sense for Dallas.
I mean, with Heiskanen out, they certainly need a defenseman, and then you have the family aspect of it. I mean, didn't Palpai Jones play for NBA in Texas? Didn't he?
Played in Colorado and in Dallas.
Yeah, so I mean, you have that connection, but yeah, I mean, I think the Stars are going to be looking for a defenseman. Seth Jones, obviously, Blackhawks is going to be a seller. He's a guy that could be on the move. I mean, salary-wise, I don't know how that could be a little bit wrinkle to it, but I do think he would make sense for Dallas, and he's certainly on the market. You know, his name is on a lot of the trade boards, so I think it would be a good fit. I mean, we talked about Oleksiak before. Could the Stars bring him back? Could that be an option if they wanted to look for a defenseman? But yeah, I think Seth Jones would fit Dallas. So I'll go round.
All right, and I got that coming up right there. Boom. All right, Phil, does it make sense for Seth Jones to go to Dallas?
So the real issue here is the salary, because Dallas right now, cap wages says they're about $4.318 million in cap space. They have Sagan on LTIR as well as Nils Lundqvist, so they have $11.1 million exactly in LTIR. If you look at their right side defense, the depth in general is just not great, even with Heiskanen in the lineup. So could they move Heiskanen to LTIR and get the space to do it? Possibly. They'll have to finagle. Nil is going to have to really finagle with the cap, but their right side defense is just not good. Like you're looking at Matt Dumba, Ilya Lyubushkin. They brought in Cody Ceci to kind of help save their right side. Like that's how bad their depth is there. So they really could use him, and I think he could benefit from a change of scenery. So I think if you bring him into a team where he doesn't have to be the guy, I think he could flourish as a decent two-way defenseman. I mean, he's just a phenomenal skater. Frank Saravalli brought up a great point on one of his podcasts. Well, I don't know if it was the rundown or whatever, but he said that Seth Jones is the type of defenseman that is not – he's going to bust that Aiden curve because he's just a phenomenal skater with great reach and length and size. So that's a guy that's just an elite level skater. I would really believe that if Dallas can find a way to make this work, he is just. It makes too much sense if they can make it work financially.
So that's a round.
Yeah, that's a round for me.
Yeah, I'm gonna go beer, and again, the contract is the reason why. I would love to see if Seth Jones can go back to the player he was back on his Columbus days, but I just don't know if that money is going to work out. $9.5 million going all the way to 29-30.
Chicago,
that's a big chunk of change. Sorry, was that Phil?
I said Chicago would have to retain probably. I believe they have their they have their retention spots. They have all three. So,
well, Dallas does have the assets if they want to move them, because I mean, after all, they do have their first and second next year. There's a conditional one pick that's in their third round. And they got some good prospects. That's just a lot of money next year. I don't know if you could just go, all right, well, maybe you try to move Tyler Seguin and try to keep him up, but we will see next year when that happens. But let's look at this year, guys. Pacific Division right now, the Edmonton Oilers and the Las Vegas Golden Knights tied at 72 points. But you look over that wild card standing, you got Colorado 68 and Vancouver with 63. An Edmonton-Colorado series would be better or more entertaining, to clarify that, than the Vegas-Colorado series. And Phil, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to see a run and gun, yeah. I think that's the series that everybody would want to see, just because you're going to get McDavid and Makar. You're going to get McKinnon. You're going to get Draisaitl. There's a ton of star power in this series. A better played series that actually might end up being a little more entertaining because of tighter games might be Vegas, Colorado. I think Vegas can shut down Colorado, though. I do. I get that they've got the star power there, but to me, this is not the same Colorado team without Rantanen. It's not. They're still good, and they've got some depth with some of the players that have come back, but get the hoop. McDavid versus McKinnon would solve world hunger. That's great. Yeah, I just think that that was. I think either way it would be fun. I just think that maybe Vegas and Colorado might have more games that end up going to overtime at like a tighter checked, and those overtime games that are tightly checked end up being some of the most entertaining games of all time. You can look back at the early 2000s where you had your Philadelphia and Pittsburgh going, 5 overtimes in the first round, and Keith Primo ending it on a ridiculous wrist shot. It just, I think that this is a great, it's a great prospect either way, but I'll probably say beer just for the sake of it.
Anthony, what do you think? Which matchup do you like better?
Yeah, I mean, how do you identify better? Because like Edmonton, Colorado, that's like because that's really entertaining. So you can consider that as being better. That would be a lot of fun. But I don't know. I'll go beer. I think I agree with Phil. I think Vegas, Colorado might be, in terms of like a system and actually like watching like playoff hockey and how each team tries to, basically just kind of out coach the other coach or just grind another team down better. I think that would work. But yeah, in terms of run and gun and maybe excitement, the Edmonton Colorado series, because when you have that much talent on both sides, it's obvious.
Either team, I think the last one I want to see is Colorado for Edmonton or Vegas. I'm actually gonna go round on this one. I think I gotta agree with Evan that if it's McDavid versus McKinnon, first time since the conference finals in 2022, maybe that's something that's going to look glorious. I think the better series, though, if you want to say like better hockey, being well played. But I'm going to go with run and gun being the more entertaining factor in that. Let's go. I changed this up a little bit, guys, because we talked about him at length, and we're going to talk about him even more soon. So let's go back to the Four Nations and say the U.S. power play will be the best in the Four Nations. Anthony, go to you.
I mean, they have good units, but I think Canada's unit's a little better. I mean, anytime you have Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon, Sidney Crosby, all on the same team with Cale Makar and even Sam Reinhart, even if I know they probably want to split it up a little bit, but even if they want to load up, I mean, my goodness, I mean, that's just so. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna go shot. I'm gonna go shot. I think Canada, if they really wanted to, could put out one of the most lethal power play units we've seen in quite some time.
All right, Phil.
I'm actually going to say shot because those 5 that Anthony just named, that's actually what Canada has been rolling out as their power play 1 in practice.
Oh my God.
Yes. So that is what they've been rolling out. So I can confirm that is what they're going with, unless something changes as of right now. Yeah, I don't want to face that power play.
No,
I don't. I would never want to take a penalty against Canada. So,
and I didn't even mention Mitch Marner's name in that too.
He's not on that unit.
Yes,
he's not even on that unit. No. So you have a unit that is McDavid, McKinnon, Crosby, probably 3 of the top 6 or 7 best players of the salary cap era, and then Makar, who's one of the top, 5 best defensemen of the salary cap era, maybe the best offensive defenseman of the salary cap era when it's all said and done. You could say after Carlson right now just because of what Carlson's done. But those guys, and then you have Sam Reinhart, who's on pace for another 50-goal season, another 55-goal season, as one of the best shooters in the NHL. Like that power play could look like McDavid, McKinnon, and Crosby anywhere. Makar at the point, and Reinhart in the bumper.
Yeah.
And Reinhart is the last friggin' guy in the NHL you want to see in the bumper.
Yeah.
Because he's probably the best shooter from that spot in the entire world. So, this is a shot for me.
Yeah.
Absolute shot.
And I'm trying to make the case for too many cooks in the kitchen, but when you have Sidney Crosby, who's probably the ultimate superstar team player, I mean, sure, everybody's got a bit of an ego, but Crosby just seems to do everything always for the team, and you wouldn't have to worry about the guys deferring to him, and then even at that, him going, no, McDavid, you take the shot, or McKinnon, you take the shot, or everybody. You could
Crosby will figure out everything. The guy is too smart and too much of a leader.
Yeah, so I got to go shot on this one. And
crazy stat. Forgot to say this because Jason Demare actually said this last night on NHL Network in the Four Nations face-off. Do you know what Crosby's record is in his last 25 international games?
23 1-1.
What?
23 1-1.
25 0-0.
Yes.
That's stupid.
Yeah.
Well,
it's stupid.
In 1980, to rival this, in 1987, weren't Bossy, Gretzky, and Lemieux on the same Canada Cup team?
No, Bossy was not on that team. That power play is probably the most ridiculous power play ever created, though. It was Gretzky, Messier, Lemieux, Bourque, and Coffey.
Look.
How do you stop
that's the best way to say it. Just good.
How do you stop? If I was a goaltender, I would be pissing my pants in the crease when they got on the power play.
Well,
how are you stopping that?
And if I recall correctly, that's the one Gretzky to Lemieux for the Canada Cup
for the winner against Russia. Right? Yes.
Yeah. Well, Russia don't care. They'll do whatever.
Here's how you stop it. Don't take penalties. Easier said than done against that team.
And also at 5-on-5, they're not exactly not lethal. They're just
they're pretty
as
damn
good.
lethal at 5-on-5 too.
So this one's kind of a layup because again, I didn't want to talk about Canada's goaltending
By
again.
design, boys, by design.
Yeah, this one has to be. But Finland has the most to prove on this stage, Mr. Larocco.
You know what? I'm actually gonna go shot. I think Finland. Every Olympic stage they always put on a good showing, right? Like, so I get their defense is kind of all in the infirmary, so there's that aspect. But I still think Canada has the most to prove, believe it or not. I think they still want to establish themselves as the best hockey superpower in the world. I mean, they see in a lot of the strides the Americans have been making, not just in like international NHL type of settings, but in World Juniors, and USA Hockey is on the rise. And I think that they want to prove that they're still the team to beat internationally. So I'm going to say it's Canada.
Philk.
This is a shot because they have a depleted defense. They have probably the worst roster of all the teams, even with their injuries. So I don't think that they really have anything to prove. For me, it's a toss-up between the U.S. and Canada. And the reason why I'm going to say it's the U.S. is because of the fact that Canada has won the last major tournaments at the senior level, not at the junior level. The U.S. won back-to-back World Juniors. So you want to talk about the U.S. catching up to them in development? Okay, fair point. But we're past the development stage. We're at the finished product stage. And Canada won the last 2 times or the last 3 times rather, that it was best on best at the highest level. So they won the World Cup in 2016. They won the Olympics in 2014 convincingly, except for that one weird game where Krzysztof Zgulewski's almost put Latvia over them. That was just ridiculous. One of the best goaltending performances I've ever seen. And then 2010, when they beat the U.S. in the gold medal game with Crosby with the golden goal. So for me, I would say it's the U.S. because this is where they're going to have to follow up what the junior team has done the last 2 years and win gold here.
You know what? You guys convinced me. I'm gonna have to go shout on this. I was ready to try to make a good argument that the Finns had a lot to prove and they're going to be quite feisty. No, I think you sold me. Canada wants their superiority to be there. After all, I think it was Anna Dewar who put up the tweet. Hockey is a Canadian sport, and that's usually that emotion. And this is definitely, I would have to say, the strongest U.S.-Canada matchup possibly ever. If you're ever going to catch the Canadians at the right time, where the U.S. has the more superior team, this might be it, and especially because of the goaltending. So, yeah, you know what? You guys talked me down all the way down to a shot. I was hoping to at least say beer for this, but that's about it. Guys, that's the end of Big Apple Hockey's Bar Talk. We gauge our confidence on NHL topics based on our choice to drink, guys. And now let's go to Big Apple Hockey Pick'ems. And this is hosted by Mr. John Volkowski right up there. Unless you want me to do it.
I just put these together. I don't know what you want to do with it, but I guess I'll do it.
Yeah. So, I mean, put me as the analyst every now and again.
All right, fine. So we have a Four Nations themed pick'ems this week. So we'll start with this one. The worst unit. Canada's goaltending or Finland's defense?
Anthony?
You know what? Canada's goaltending has some guys that have Stanley Cup rings on it. So I'm going to go Finland's defense.
You know something? because there's no Miro Heiskanen, and he's their top end talent. I'm going to go Finland's defense too. I have no love for any of those goaltenders that Canada's going to put in the crease, especially the one that has the earlier Stanley Cup ring. And God only knows what Adin Hill is going to be, but I got to go Finland's defense because there's no Heiskanen.
I mean, I look at that defensive roster, and it's just without Miro Heiskanen, it is tough for me. Like, it is really, really tough for me to say that they're a worse unit than Canada's goaltending, even though I do think that, yeah, I get it. They've got cups, but was Adin Hill the reason they won? Was Jordan Binnington the reason they won? I wouldn't say that. Although they played well, I don't know if I would really agree with that. But Yoki Harju, Lindell, Mata, Nico Mikkola, and then you have Urho Vakanainen and Nicholas Montepallo on there. Oh, man, that's bad.
And Phil, just to mention this, though, you mentioned Binnington was the reason why they won. Yeah, he was a big reason why they won, but that was 6 years ago. That's not the same guy that's in the crease right now.
No, it's not. Adin Hill, you could make that argument for, and then Sam Montembeault, if he starts playing, I think Canada's in trouble. So we'll move on to the next one. Best blue line, USA's defense or Sweden's defense?
I'll field that one. And Anthony, this was a tough one because you have all the Norris trophies, for the most part, are over in Sweden. There's 3 of them that are over there. U.S. is down to 1 with Quinn Hughes out. I still got to go with the USA because when you're saying your top pairing is going to be Jacob Slavin, who's one of the best defensive defensemen in the NHL, alongside Adam Fox, and they're still going to run 5 really good defensemen also right behind them, with Sanderson also being on the roster. I got to go with Team USA, even though, look, Sweden, their defense is good, but it's a very much an older defense.
This is really tough. I think I'm inclined to go Sweden's defense, actually. I think they got a little bit more physicality to them. I like the youthfulness that Rasmus Dahlin brings. I think he's going to be a big factor back there. Obviously, Victor Hedman's the veteran of the group. Obviously Erik Karlsson talk about his defensive game, but he's still a really good puck mover. But then again, USA, Werenski, Adam Fox, I get all that. It truly for me is a toss up, but my gut is just saying Sweden's defense.
See, this is why I put this one, because there's real good arguments for both of these teams, both these units. When I look at it, I do agree. I think there is a lack of physicality on the U.S. defense. I think Fox, Faber can play physical. Hannafin can at times, but he's not overly physical. McAvoy's a truck when he wants it. He can be an absolute truck. If he throws his weight around, there's going to be problems for the guys that are coming at him. Sanderson, he has size. I would like to see him use it a little more to his advantage. Slavin's probably the most physical. But Werenski is having a Norris caliber year. Like, if this season ended right now, I'm giving Werenski the Norris, and I know a lot of people that would as well.
All of us.
Yeah, and a lot of the analysts, a lot of the experts would as well. I do love that physical defensive element in Sweden's defense. Jonas Brodin, Matthias Ekholm, Gustav Forsling, Victor Hedman, all can play that physical game and are all good skaters on top of that. So I think I'm going to have to give a slight edge to Sweden here. Very, very, very slight edge to Sweden. All right, so we'll move on from that. I forgot there for a second that Mark is not doing this with me.
Well, I can always go back to that.
No.
It's
It's okay.
I go right to the next.
It's all right. More to prove. Brandon Hagel or Capo Caco? And I'm going to start with this one because I want to add context here because I know people are probably saying, what are you talking about, Brandon Hagel? Brandon Hagel is somebody that has performed well in Tampa, put up some good numbers, but he's seen as a complementary player, not a guy that drives play, not a guy that, if he wasn't playing with the line mates that he's playing with, I would imagine a lot of people would say probably doesn't come to close to putting up anywhere near the numbers that he is. And there are guys that Canada probably could have added over him, but he plays the type of game that Canada wants to play. Up tempo, in your face, physical. So between him and then Capo Caco, who has had a great start with his career in Seattle so far, really good start. I think there's just a lot to prove here between these two guys. So what do you guys think?
I'm going to go with Capo Caco. Can he keep that momentum going? And he's looking like a franchise player over in Seattle. He has got his confidence. I think Caco is going to have a very good tournament. Now, I understand why you're saying Brandon Hagel too, because one guy that's going to watch Brandon Hagel is Mark Scheifele, who right now is practicing while he was sitting there going, I hope I win a Stanley Cup this year so I could stick it to everybody that didn't put me on Team Canada. That's the reason why I'm going to go Caco, because he's been so hot. Mr. Larocco.
I'm going to go Caco just because I think, Hagel puts up really good numbers on a Lightning team, because who he plays with. But playing on Team Canada, he's also going to play with really good players too. So I don't know how much will change. I think Caco obviously breathed new life into him when he got traded from the Rangers, Seattle, and he's playing really well for the Kraken. But on the international stage, I think he has the opportunity to go to this Finland team and play a pivotal role and kind of, and show off his skill in the sense of, if he has a good showing, he'd be like, I helped bring a Finland team that everybody doubted, and I, brought them into contention to win the whole thing. And, if that happened and let's say he led Finland in scoring, that would be absolutely huge for him. Huge. So I think he just has a little bit more to prove than Hagel does.
I'm actually with you guys. I'm going to go Capo Caco here, but I'm going to go for a different reason. This guy wants to stick it to the New York Rangers. Absolutely wants to stick it. There was a lot of talk about him being unhappy between multiple coaches, and I think that he's finally out on his own. He's finally just able to go play hockey and just not worry about other things with the coaches that he's had in New York. So I think this is going to be where Capo Caco wants to kind of, give the proverbial FU to everyone back in New York.
And just to mention this, Phil, the last time Capo Caco was on an international stage like this, he impressed the hell out of everybody and got drafted second overall.
Yeah. All right. Bigger USA snub, Jason Robertson or Clayton Keller?
Oof. This one's
no layups here, boys. No layups here.
Close. Obviously, they both had claims to make the team, as did Cole Caulfield and Tage Thompson. So really all four of them. But for me, I'm gonna lean towards Keller.
Maybe the chat's swaying Anthony a little bit.
Robertson is having a good year. Not nearly as good as it was, the other year, but Keller has 60 points. I believe Robertson has like 50 or 51. Granted, not a huge difference, but that's weighing on my decision. I think Keller is one of the driving forces on his team. You granted a good young player in Dylan Guenther and Logan Cooley help, but I mean, Robertson plays on a Stars team that has Wyatt Johnston and Rope Hintz, and he's surrounded by some really good players. But This is a little bit of a toss-up, but I lean Clayton Keller.
Phil, I'm going to go Clayton Keller too. I think he's having the better season. I think he plays on the team that needs to rely on him a little bit more. 60 points, 20 goals, 40 assists right now. And the other thing is, if I got into a DeLorean and went back 2 years, this answer is a layup that it's Jason Robertson.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
I don't know about that. I mean, Clayton Keller had an 86-point season the year that Robertson had his 100-point year, and Robertson was doing it on a stacked Dallas team. Keller was doing it almost by himself.
But he was on the stacked Dallas team where he was the best player.
Yes.
This one, Robertson hasn't exactly looked like himself. Really, we know there's another level they could get to. That being said, Jason Robertson was on this team. I think his confidence would be shooting up right there. And I would love to have seen him playing with this team. Or, you know what, but Clayton Keller too. But, you know, Tage Thompson sitting home as well, guys.
So I'm going to go Keller. It's for me, I would say that what Clayton Keller is doing is more impressive than what Jason Robertson is doing right now. I look at the numbers year by year. Yeah, 2 years ago, each one of them had a major year, career year for them. Keller, 37 goals, 86 points. Then Robertson, obviously, over 40 goals and 100 points, almost 50 goals and 110 points 2 years ago. But their numbers have both gone down each year. And not only that, but Keller this year, he looks like he's on pace for another career year. Like, he could possibly even score 90 points this year. And he's finally starting to get some talent around him. Not only that, but if you want speed and scoring and skill, this is a guy that you could put on there and he could play on any line with any of those guys. He is a world-class playmaker. So for me, I'm going to go Keller. And then the last one I have for you guys. Better bet for the MVP. Cale Makar or Auston Matthews?
Philip, this one's a tough one. The way I can only break this down, I have to go Auston Matthews because Auston Matthews could be the best player in Team USA right now and possibly in their history. You have Jack Hughes, who's motivated to be playing alongside of him. He wants to be feeding him the puck, and he wants him shooting the puck as much as possible. When you look at Cale Makar, he's on a roster with Connor McDavid, Nate McKinnon, Sidney Crosby, and I could sit here with all the talent that I can name on Team Canada. He's got a lot of guys he's going to have to overcome. I think it's going to be Auston Matthews.
Yeah, I'm going to go Captain America here, Auston Matthews. I think he has the opportunity to have a really monster tournament, being the leader of this USA team. Help them win this trophy and also capture a gold medal. Because I think I said that the team that wins are also getting medals. So, whereas kind of Mark alluded to, Canada has some, not that USA doesn't, but Canada has some guys that, megastars in Connor McDavid, Crosby, and McKinnon playing on the team as well. So I just think that heightens Matthews, his more potential to win an MVP award over Cale Makar.
So the reason why I put Makar there was because, yes, those guys are going to be putting up points. But who do you think is probably going to have a lot of those assists? Cale Makar, especially if you're talking about that power play. He's on power play 1. He's quarterbacking them. Got to remember, he won the Conn Smythe over Nathan McKinnon in 2022. Colorado won their Stanley Cup.
That's true.
So this is a guy that has experience with being the best player in these big tournaments. So I'm going to go Matthews, but I think it's going to be I think it's a lot closer than what you guys are giving.
Here's a quick question.
Go. Yeah, sure.
Better under the radar player in this tournament for you out of Canada and North America and the United States. I was going to say North America at first and then brain farted. Better under the radar player would you take? Anthony Cirelli or Dylan Larkin?
Dylan Larkin. Better offensive player, And Cirelli is a player I would kill to have on the Rangers. Like I would love to have him on the Rangers right now. He would help solve a lot of the Rangers' problems. You bring in a guy that is a Selke caliber type player in Cirelli. Yeah, but in this tournament, Dylan Larkin. And the reason I say that is because Dylan Larkin, he was on NHL Network last night for the preview, and they interviewed him and he talked about it. It's like, hey, we check all of our egos at the door. I know that I'm probably going to be penalty killing, and with that type of speed and that type of offense and the ability to kill penalties and strong two-way play and very good offense. No offense to Cirelli, but I think there's a difference in offense between him and Larkin, and we've seen it. We know what Larkin is capable of. So for me, it's Larkin.
I think Larkin's on the second penalty kill unit with Nelson right now. Because
Trocheck and Kreider are penalty killing there. No, Trocheck and Miller. Sorry.
I'm gonna go Cirelli just because I think Cirelli might get the tough assignments as one of the shutdown guys playing against other teams' top lines, and that's vitally important, I think. Whereas Larkin right now, he's on the fourth line with Trocheck and Nelson. Not that that line's not going to play a role; they're going to be needed to be good. But I think Cirelli might have that integral role of playing in really tough situations. That fourth line could too for USA. I mean, Trocheck, Nelson, and Larkin's a good defensively responsible line too. But I mean, Cirelli, I think as the center, I think he might have the really tough matchups. And like I said, if he could play in that role and shut down guys like Matthews, Hughes, Pettersson, and Barkov, whoever, that could go a long way for Canada.
I'm going to go Anthony Cirelli simply for one reason. His coach is on the bench, and he's going to know how to deploy him, how to use him, and get the most that he can out of him. So we're going to see him probably, like you said, be deployed in situations to shut down other teams' best players. And Mitch Marner, he could get more points in this than Matthews in this tourney, as Josh Frankel is saying right there.
Yeah.
So, all right, guys, that's Big Apple Hockey's Pick'em, and gotta love this segment. We just started with this, and I'll throw. Actually, let me ask you guys this question. Obviously, other than the Miracle on Ice, because that's what always is going to hit us. I say to you, an Olympic moment that's underrated. What would you say?
Underrated?
Yeah.
Does it have to be straight up Olympics, or are we talking just international competition?
You can go international because it's not necessary Olympics. Because I'll tell you mine, because I can't find it on any list. Everybody talks about different moments, in World Juniors or such. Nobody talks about the Miracle of Minsk.
Of what?
Where Belarus beats Sweden in
2002 at Salt Lake City. Oh my god!
The one that hit Salo on the shoulder and bounced behind him.
That ruined him.
Ruslan Saleh had it. Rest in peace.
Yeah, that ruined Salo. Salo was a solid NHL goaltender, and after that, he was just.
Oh man, that was it. That you're right. That absolutely ruined him, and it was big for Belarus to a point, just because you saw guys like Andre and Sergei Kostitsyn get drafted in the following years, which was huge, especially considering Kostitsyn was already playing junior and he was already at a junior level at that point when that goal happened. But yeah, that absolutely killed Tommy Salo's career. He played 2 more seasons after that, and he was just not the same with Edmonton. Just .899 the next year, and then an .897 save percentage total between Edmonton and Colorado. He was an .896 with Edmonton, and then he was a .912 with Colorado. So, oh man, that ruined him big time.
Mine just because I vividly remember it so well, but the Zach Parise tying goal
Yes.
against Canada. I just remember watching that and just losing it when he scored, and that moment. I don't know. Just, at that moment, it felt like hope. It felt like USA was going to come back. We were going to do this. We were going to win a gold medal.
Yeah.
So for me, it's that one, and obviously Doc's call just made it. As he always did, he just made it so good.
Hands down. And again, to just kind of piggyback on what you're saying, looking at what the game-winning goal was by Crosby, I still, when we had him on, I wish I asked him, Ryan Miller, if he thought Crosby was going to shoot it right there, because he definitely surprised me.
I thought you did ask him.
I forgot if I did. That's a great question.
Maybe
I think you did.
That was that was a great question.
Maybe he did. I mean, you'd have to go back and check it. But for me, Marc-Andre Fleury, 2004 gold medal game, World Juniors. He clears it up the ice, up the middle. It goes off of Braden Coburn's back and goes into his own net. That gave, and Patrick O'Sullivan got credited with the goal. And that, for me, is one of the most underrated moments in all of hockey, because that spurred a new generation of American-born forwards that we're looking at today. Mm-hmm. If that doesn't happen, is there an Auston Matthews? Is there a Clayton Keller? Is there a Jack Hughes? Is there this and that? Like I'm not saying that directly caused those guys to be born or anything like that, but like it just winning at that level and knowing that those guys were all involved in hockey at that time, that kind of gives you that strength and that belief that, hey, these guys got to that level and they won. Maybe I can get to that NHL level if I work my ass off. And a lot of these guys are coming out of nowhere in different programs, and we've just seen an uptick, a major uptick in not only the US NDTP since then, but NCAA. And now with the NCAA being able to get, I mean, I never thought this was going to happen. If you would have asked me in 2004 this would have ever happened, but now CHL players can go play in the NCAA, which is massive, something long overdue. We talked about this previously on here. But you can thank that 2004 gold medal winning team for a lot of the improvement and the gap closing that we've seen between the U.S. and Canada in terms of hockey development.
Yeah, I agree.
That was one of the biggest moments that nobody ever talks about.
Yeah. And then you look at only 6 years later, John Carlson in overtime to get U.S. their next one. They were knocking on the door. And as you said, like that, Phil, they were knocking on the door with Canada for a little bit. And then finally U.S. broke through. And the last decade has been the best 10 years of USA hockey in the juniors. But looking forward to seeing what they're going to be putting out going forward. And they're running out just a wagon every single year. And good for them.
It's funny because the first ever time in NHL in draft history that two American players were taken number one overall happened after that 2004 gold medal. It was Eric Johnson and Patrick Kane in back-to-back drafts. And Eric Johnson ended up playing on the 2005 squad for the U.S. But you got Eric Johnson and Patrick Kane, and then you end up getting Auston Matthews first overall, Jack Hughes first overall. I mean, it's crazy to see because a lot of the times the first overalls are coming from Canada.
Yeah.
By the way, anybody remember who the first American taken first overall was?
Brian Berard.
Anthony?
American first overall pick?
Yeah.
No. I'm wrong. Hold on.
He was. I believe he was
wrong.
a former Ranger.
And I know it, and I'm ashamed that I even said this because I'm a fucking idiot. I can't believe I said that. I know exactly who it is, and I know what year it is too.
Ranger?
No.
No, he never
No.
played for the Rangers? Thought
No.
he did at one point.
Yeah, you said Rangers.
Iconic American.
But he's iconic American, and he is still involved with NHL Network.
Brian Lawton?
Brian Lawton.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot he didn't play for the Rangers.
One of my favorite USA hockey moments too, aside from the Parise goal, was the last time Mark Williams scored a goal in men's league. It happened in the United States, and it's been so long since he's done it. That was one of my favorite moments too. It's
been 5 weeks since my last goal. So.
Well, that was one of my favorite moments.
Mark Williams is an iconic American.
Yeah,
you're scoring a men's league goal. It's rare.
Well, I did have 3 goals in 17 seconds one time, but it wasn't a hat trick because I scored on the first period. That was back when I had talent. Now I'm just a broken down old man. So that's still trying to see if I could find that.
I didn't even know you still play. You never mentioned it.
Still playing.
No, you never meant when you have games and stuff. I didn't know if you did. Who do you play for?
The K-Stars now. It's an over 40 team in Midnight Ice Hockey.
You left the Lightning?
Your league, yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
But I am scoring like Justin Huberdeau. So I guess that's one thing.
Oh, there goes another Justin Huberdeau reference.
Yeah, gotta mention that one in. Hey guys, I actually got to run myself.
Yeah, I'm gonna head out too.
All right, so guys, everybody. Although I do have a few more minutes in case if you guys want. I just was told that.
No. If you gotta run, man.
Yeah.
You gotta go to work, right?
Who was the captain of the 2004 team, Phil?
2004. The U.S. The World Junior Squad.
Yeah.
I don't think it was Parise.
I was going to ask if it was Paul Stastny.
Oh,
that's a good one.
Who was the captain of that team?
Killjoy right now is saying the Kaka looks 10 feet tall in the Seattle games I've seen.
Any predictions for tonight's game?
I don't know.
So this game is in Montreal, if I'm correct, right?
Yeah.
Okay, it's in Montreal. I'm going to go Canada 5-3.
That's actually what I was going to say. I was going to say 5-3. I was going to say 5-3 Canada.
I'm going to say 3-2 Canada.
Oh my goodness, is this right? That Dan Fritchie was the captain?
Way.
I don't know. It might have been Dan Fritchie. He was a former Ranger and a former Blue Jacket. And by the way, Philk, another infamous name that came from the 2003 NHL draft. So,
not in the first round though.
No, he was second round though.
If Canada were to lose today, the meltdowns are going to start early. The panicking, even though it's the first game, there's going to be. If they lose this game, there's going to certainly be some questions. So they need to get off to a good start.
And a lot of their tourneys, they have not.
Oh, I found it. It's on USA Hockey's website. This is going to be one that's probably going to shock everybody. Mark Stewart.
Mark Stewart?
Yep.
Oh, wow, that is surprising.
That would surprise you. No, Josh Drury wasn't on that squad in 2004. He was on the Buffalo Sabres the Calgary Flames at the time.
No, I think he was with Buffalo at that time. I think he got dealt to them by that point.
No, he was on the team that went to the finals.
What?
Drury. I have him on the
Calgary? No, he wasn't.
Oh, 2003, 2004. Wow. Okay. Yeah, my mistake on that one.
Yeah, he got dealt to Calgary, Buffalo right after that Calgary season.
I always thought his best seasons, Phil, were in Colorado. I was wrong. 30
Buffalo.
goals, twice with the Buffalo Sabres.
Yeah, the Rangers overpaid for him because of those 2 seasons. He was never going to produce like that in New York. I knew that contract wasn't going to age well when I found out it was $7 million in change for him. It just, I was happy they got him, but I didn't like the AAV for that.
Well, guys, again, everybody, I know we're not doing Puck Doku or the blind rankings today, but then thanks everybody for sticking around this long. And also, well, David's right, by the way, right here. The Rangers overpay for everyone. Right now, they overpaid for a defenseman and a goaltender already for next year. So how about that? Everybody, thanks a lot for joining us today because it's going to be a fun tournament. Phil, who was your prediction for tonight?
He said 3-2.
I said Canada 3-2.
Yeah.
Sorry. And I guess one more, guys. USA Finland. Who's the winner?
USA 5-1.
Yeah, I'm gonna go USA. I'm gonna go 4-1.
You know what? I'm gonna go big too. I'm gonna go 5-1 on that. Guys, thank you very much. Look for us this week. We're trying to get a collaboration with Ranger Central to go, and also make sure you're hitting that like button. And Anthony and I will be doing a show about the state of the New York Islanders during
Trade deadline in 4 weeks too. Remember?
Yeah, trade deadlines in 4 weeks, guys.
March
And
7th.
we got 198 of you guys watching right now. Thank you all very much, and can't wait to have that number go up for that trade deadline special.
Yes.
And guys, it's going to be a great time. And this is sort of like Christmas for us, but I love covering the postseason a little bit better. So,
we had some really crazy Buffalo Sabres fan a few summers back that during the whole Eichel saga, he was a real hater.
Yeah, we also had people that were real problems and sex bots.
Yeah, we've had other people too that we've had to block. So.
All right, guys, everybody, thank you very much. Enjoy the games, and we can't wait to talk to you again very soon.